Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel, and first things first, I got new glasses, so let me know what you think. And in today's video, I'm going to be giving a very quick non-spoiler review on the Fantastic Four First Steps movie. So let's get straight into it. Alright, so the first thing that I want to say is I honestly think it was really good. Genuinely. There were a couple things that I think they could have done better, and a couple things that I did notice. And there's one specific thing that I do want to talk about that is a spoiler, but I'm going to save that for the very end so that you guys can watch most of the video. But basically, as far as it goes with the four, Reed Richards, Sue Storm, Johnny Storm, and Ben Grimm, I honestly think that they were handled fantastically. Say that again? I think every single actor really portrayed the character well. And I don't think any character specifically outshined the other in a way that took away from the other characters. Joseph Quinn's performance of Johnny Storm probably is the biggest standout of this movie. And in my personal opinion, he was probably the best part of the movie in general. And Ebon Moss-Backracker, however you're supposed to say that, also was a standout for me in the movie because Joseph Quinn and Ebon were like flipping incredible in the movie. Vanessa Kirby's Sue Storm also was flipping incredible, and Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards was also really good. The only critique I have about the four is Pedro Pascal is Pedro Pascal, and he's basically in everything, so it was hard for me sometimes to look past the fact that the actor was Pedro Pascal. So that was something that I personally struggle with. That's more of just a me thing, probably. His performance was incredible, and I love him as Reed Richards. It's just he's Pedro Pascal, so it's hard to see him as not Pedro Pascal, you know? He's not like one of those actors that molds into the character, especially when it's someone like Reed Richards that's been played by so many people that, in my opinion, have fit the character better, like the original. And honestly, I personally enjoyed John Krasinski as Reed Richards. I just think he was underused and written a little poorly. Vanessa Kirby's performance of Sue Storm was honestly great. It was really good. She stood out. She really embodied the character well, I think. And in my opinion, she did a good job. And then Ebon Moss-Backracker, however you're supposed to say his name, I think he embodied Thing perfectly. There was a little bit of that depressive state because Thing has a very depressive backstory just with the amount of emotional strain that is on the character, but he also embodied the sassiness and the quick-wittedness, but also the solid friend backbone of the group kind of aspects of the character that he has. And then Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm, honestly, I think he's the best Johnny Storm to date. I love Chris Evans' portrayal. Michael B. Jordan's portrayal wasn't bad either. The movie wasn't very good, but I liked Michael B. Jordan's portrayal, kind of. Chris Evans, flipping amazing, right? But Joseph Quinn showed a side of Johnny Storm that I don't think has ever been shown before. We got to see that Johnny Storm is more than just good looks. He actually is very intelligent. And we also saw this side of Johnny Storm that was very emotionally intelligent too, which usually we don't get that as much. And so I really liked the building that the director, Matt Shakman, did on Joseph Quinn's portrayal of Johnny Storm. And then Julia Garner's Shala Ball, honestly, one of my favorite parts in the movie. If you don't know, and I talked about this a little bit in my Fantastic Four trailer reaction, but Shala Ball is not a female version of Silver Surfer, like a gender swap of the character. Shala Ball is an actual character in the Marvel Universe. She comes from the same planet as the male Silver Surfer Norrin-Radd, Zen-La, and she was like the Empress slash a researcher on the planet. She was very high status on the planet. So basically the lore behind her is she was the lover to Silver Surfer, and eventually Silver Surfer, Norrin-Radd, disobeyed Galactus and was exiled to Earth. And then Mephisto sensed Norrin-Radd's presence and decided to manipulate him using Shala Ball, his lover. Basically, Mephisto captured Shala Ball and basically told Norrin-Radd that if Norrin-Radd, Silver Surfer, obeyed what Mephisto said, then Mephisto would give Shala Ball back. And there was a bunch of stuff that happened between Silver Surfer and Mephisto and all the things that Mephisto wanted from Silver Surfer and all that kind of stuff. But eventually, Silver Surfer was able to rescue her from now Doctor Doom, and he took her place. And then she was brought back to the planet of Zenn-La, and she had been imbued with the power of Cosmic from Silver Surfer. And then she became the Empress of Zenn-La because she now imbued some of the power of Cosmic. And then all of this eventually just leads her into becoming Galactus' herald. And I'm going very quickly through her lore. I'm leaving out a lot. But in the MCU, she is basically his herald because she is protecting her homeworld, which is very similar to the comics, so that was chill. And I liked her portrayal. I liked Julia Garner's portrayal of the character. I liked the way that they did everything for the character. And then Ralph Ineson's Galactus, honestly, my favorite part of the movie. Galactus was basically perfect. He was just the right height, you know. He was big enough. The way he portrayed him, his dialogue, everything about him was flipping incredible. I loved him so much. And then these aren't spoilers because the characters are listed in the cast. Skip 2 minutes ahead if you want. But Paul Walker Hauser is playing Mole Man, and I think he was the only thing that I didn't quite know if I enjoyed or not. I liked his character. I just wish his character design was a little different. I loved his character. He did great as the character. It was just his character design that I have issue with personally. But other than that, I liked Mole Man's character in the movie. I like what they did with him. Again, this is a non-spoiler review. I'm not necessarily going to actually tell you what happened. Just go watch the movie. The movie is flipping awesome. Just go watch the movie. But the way that they had Mole Man interact with the Fantastic Four, the way they introduced him in the movie, and the way they continued to use him throughout the movie, I liked the introduction of Subternia and all those kinds of things related to Mole Man. And yeah, I liked that. And not to spoil who exactly there is, but they did discuss the Fantastic Four's Rogue Gallery, and that was really cool to see too. And then Franklin Richards is a child in the entire movie. He's a baby, but I liked how they handled Franklin Richards as a character. Again, I talked about who Franklin Richards is in my trailer reaction video. I'm gonna pin it right up there if you guys want to go and watch that. I kind of break down all of the characters in that. But I really like how they handled Franklin Richards' powers and his abilities and how strong he is and how basically dangerous he is. And he's a baby in the movie, but he felt like such a well-written character as well, which I really appreciated. The only thing that I wish was different about this movie is I wish it was longer. Sometimes I feel like it was a little bit rushed. There was a lot of depth that this movie had, and there were a lot of things that they cut out of the movie that were in the trailer that I wish they had kept in the movie. And I'm going to talk about that right at the end, like I said, because that gets into spoilers a little bit. But I just wish that they had felt comfortable with making the movie a 2 hours and 20 minute long movie instead of a 1 hours and 55 minute movie. I feel like people that are making movies are more focused on shorter time periods because of the scientific stuff with attention spans. But all of the really good movies that are coming out are 2 hours plus, you know? So as far as the Marvel movies lately being a little bit shorter, because the Thunderbolts movie is 2 hours and 6 minutes, so that's a 2 hour movie. Thunderbolts is longer than Fantastic Four First Steps, and I wish we got more in this movie, because there was so much good in this movie. There were so many good things that happened, and they had a lot of opportunities to build on characters emotionally if they had just spent a little bit more time on specific things. And so I think that if they had just added 20-30 minutes to the runtime of this movie, it would have been a 10 out of 10 Marvel movie. But beginning to end, I loved the movie. I loved the way it felt like a very enjoyable movie. It feels like how Marvel movies used to feel, for sure. They knocked the casting out of the park with Joseph Quinn and Ebon Moss-Bachrach or whatever, and Ralph Ineson and Julia Garner, those actors. Vanessa Kirby, again, she did a great job as Invisible Woman. I just know Vanessa Kirby from so many other things that it's hard for me to look past who she has been just because of the kind of actress she is. And that's my gripe with Pietro Pascal as well, is he's just been so many iconic things at this point that giving him more and more iconic roles is just difficult, you know? Because him being a character like he was in The Kingsman, that was perfect. That was also before he was super famous, but that was fine. And what he did in the fantastical Nicolas Cage whatever movie, again, that was totally fine, because he's not a character that we already have a preconceived ideal about, right? With someone like Reed Richards, we all already have a mental image of Reed Richards in our mind, and Pedro Pascal doesn't fit any version of our mental image. Like, he does, but he doesn't, because he's Pedro Pascal. And he still sounds like the Mandalorian some parts in the movie, and just things like that, where because it was Pedro Pascal, which I love Pedro Pascal as an actor. I am not a Pedro Pascal hater at all. I just love his acting, and I love him as an actor. And from what I can see from press stuff, he seems like a super chill dude. It's just him as someone like Reed Richards, where we already have two canon, I guess, Reed Richards in the MCU, because Chris Evans' Johnny Storm was in the MCU, which means that Reed Richards is in the MCU too. And then we have John Krasinski's Reed Richards, and those two, in my opinion, are the best portrayals of Reed Richards that we have. And Pedro Pascal, this was a perfect movie, and I can't see any of the other actors acting in this movie as Reed Richards. But it was just hard for me to watch it with it being Pedro Pascal a lot, just because it's Pedro Pascal. He's Pedro Pascal. I loved the plot of the movie, though. The plot was flipping great. A lot of the writing was fantastic. Most of the writing was fantastic. Say that again? The CGI in the movie was great. Of course, it was like, there were two specific parts. There was a part where they got out of the Fantastic car, and then there was whenever the Thing would hold Franklin Richards. Those were the only things that specifically the CGI looked a little bad with, but those are expected, those kinds of things, because like Thing came out of the Fantastic car. So there's two different CGI things. It was just a little shaky, a little bit rushed. It seemed unnatural. But those were really the only things CGI-wise that I noticed, because Galactus CGI and like the effects on Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman and Thing and Human Torch and Silver Surfer and all of those people, the effects were fantastic. I loved it all. And then finally, the way that they handled Galactus, they didn't overpower the Fantastic Four, and they didn't underpower or nerf Galactus so that they were able to fight him and things like that. It was all extremely lore accurate. Galactus is probably more powerful in the comics than he was in movies, but that's to be expected when you take an overpowered character from a comic book and put it into a movie. But as far as it goes with balancing, I feel like they did do the balancing really well. And then the one thing that's a spoiler, so this is a spoiler, that I didn't appreciate was that they took out John Malkovich's character. I'm pretty sure he was the Red Ghost, because they mentioned the Red Ghost in the movie in the beginning bit when they're going through the entire Rogues Gallery. But they took out John Malkovich, and he's literally in the trailer, and they just took out his scene. And I don't know why they did that. I don't know what purpose it served to take out John Malkovich, but they did, and it happened. And I was looking forward to seeing John Malkovich in the movie, and the fact that I didn't is fine. It's just kind of sad. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the Fantastic Four movie. I thought it was a great movie, and I definitely recommend going and seeing it in theaters. I saw it. What theater did I? I saw it in Epic Theaters. I saw it in their XL. It was really cool. But yeah, thank you for choosing to watch this video. Please like and subscribe if you aren't already. Go ahead and hit that notification bell if you're so kind, so you know when I'm super cool and I post a video. Thank you to Off-Brand Andrew for being a member of my YouTube channel. I love every single one of you guys individually and as a team. Peace out.